In this video, I'm going to present you with basic selection techniques in Photoshop. For this, I have prepared two files. One is showing a painting by Edward Hopper on the top layer. On the layer below is an image of a cloudy sky. The second file is showing an abstract axonometric drawing with monochromatic faces. First of all, we have some tools for this. For example, the Rectangular Marquee tool. You can draw a rectangle, and now you can do something with this rectangle. You can, for example, delete the part inside. But if you want to do this, you have to decide on which layer you want to do this. So this is a very crucial difference. The selection ants, this kind of figure that you see here, is independent from layers. But when you want to do something with this selection, you have to decide for a layer. Okay? So if I want to delete something out of this painting, I'm just selecting the layer and press delete. And now you see there's a hole in this layer. And through this hole, you see the layer below. You can get rid of the selection ants by pressing Command or Control D. And now you're done. I can hide the bottom layer and I see a kind of checkerboard pattern. This is indicating that in this part of the image there are no pixels anymore. This part of the image is transparent. In case you show the bottom layer again, you will see this bottom layer through this hole. Let's undo this. Now, of course, there's this other option, the Elliptical Marquee tool. And elliptical means when you press Shift, you get a circle. And as you can also see, which was also the case for the Rectangular Marquee tool, and which is actually the same for every kind of selection, you can move it around before you do anything. Okay, so if you missed the exact spot, you can correct this afterwards. Of course, now you can do whatever you want with this circular selection. I will get rid of it again and proceed to some more sophisticated tools. For example, the Lasso tool. When you click on this, you see the polygonal Lasso tool. This one is a pretty typical tool to use for architectural drawings, because most of the time you have something consisting of lines, straight lines, and you can use this Polygon Lasso tool to follow these lines. Even in this painting, we can do this. Now, in case you do something wrong, you can go back with backspace, and you can see that you can go back as far as you want. And now let's do it correctly, just very roughly. This is not meant to be good, it's just meant to be descriptive. Now you can see this small circle. When you click on this, it's closed. I'll show you later on how you can refine the selection, because this one is pretty rough actually. But first of all, I want to show you how to add another selection. Now let's say we want to add this selection of this window. It wouldn't be a good idea to just start clicking here, because then this one would be gone. So what I'm going to do is I have to press the Shift key. Now when I press the Shift key, you see this small plus sign, and after the first click you can release the Shift key, and now you can start drawing this polygon without having to be afraid that you delete this one. Now I would like to zoom into my image. I press Space and Command. Now I can work a little bit more precisely. As you can see, you can move out of the Photoshop image with your selection tool. You can also hit the window borders and Photoshop moves automatically, which can be kind of nice. And then you can close this and press Command or Control 0, and now you see your whole image again. Now you have two selections actually, and you can choose the right layer and delete this, and now you see the sky through the windows. This is the second and I think most typical selection tool as far as simple selection tools are concerned. Now let's proceed with the Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool is the third typical selection tool in Photoshop. It's part of a group of similar tools: Object Selection Tool, Quick Selection Tool, and Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool is the oldest of these three, and it's a very simple and straightforward tool to use. Now, the most common use for this Magic Wand is a situation where you have rather monochromatic areas. So let's take this axonometric drawing. It shows monochromatic faces that differ in relation to the direction. So we have faces directing this way, upwards, and in this direction. And you can use the Magic Wand tool to select all of the faces looking this way. The Magic Wand tool selects colors, similar colors, and when you click on some pixel, it will select this pixel and all the pixels neighboring it with similar colors. The degree of similarity is set by this tolerance value. So let's say we want to have a very low tolerance so that Magic Wand only selects the clicked on pixel color and some very, very neighboring colors. And there's another option that you can check. It's contiguous. And this means that when you click on an area, let's say we click on this one, I check this option first, you see that only this area will be selected. When I uncheck this option and I click on the same area again, Photoshop will select all faces showing the same color. And of course, in this case, this is the better option. And in other cases, it may well be that it would be better to stick with contiguous. Now, tolerance 1 is okay for this situation. And imagine a CAD drawing that you exported via PDF into Photoshop. And imagine this CAD drawing shows simple coloring like this. It would make it pretty easy for you to use the Magic Wand tool to select those areas and recolor them. So this is the Magic Wand tool. The tolerance goes from 1 to 255. Of course, 255 means it selects nearly everything. As is always the case with selections, you can invert them. And with this Magic Wand tool, I would like to show you how this works. Let's say you want to select the background. You click inside this white area and Photoshop will select everything which is white. And now you could do something with the selection, maybe delete it or recolor it or something. But you can also invert the selection to have all the houses and shadows selected. Use the select menu, inverse, and now you can, as the name says, invert the selection. Now everything besides the white is selected. Sometimes it makes more sense to select the background, or sometimes it makes sense that you don't select the background, so keep this in mind. This is an option for you. Now that I have shown you the basic selection tools in Photoshop, let's show you how to deal with selections, how to refine them. Let's say we want to select this window again, and let's say we do it as roughly as we did it before, and we would very much like to refine this selection later on. Meaning, you don't have to stick with a rough selection, you can always do something about it. Or to put it the other way around, you can afford to be a little bit more rough in the beginning because you can refine the selection afterwards. Now press Q and you see Photoshop fills all the non-selected parts with a kind of transparent red color and the selected part is left out. And now you can use paint tools to refine the selection. Let's use the brush tool and let's paint something. Now, as you see, I'm removing this red color because I am painting with white. White is the foreground color. The left quadrangle is showing the foreground color and the background color is set to black. So when I paint with white, I'm removing this masking color. Okay, so when I press Q again, you would see that my selection ants are following this way. Let's press Q again. And now I would like to change between black and white because painting interchangingly with black and white means adding something to the mask or removing something from the mask. When I have black and white as foreground and background color, which I can also achieve by pressing D in case there are some other colors to be seen. You see when I press D, foreground color changes to black and background color is changing to white. And now I can press X, and whenever I press X, the colors are exchanged. So now what I can do, I can just repaint this mask. Again, I'm doing this in a pretty sketchy manner. You can resize your brush. It's going faster with a bigger one, of course. This is actually a pretty decent way of refining a selection, especially when dealing with not so precise imagery, like for example your own sketches. And now I can zoom inside. Remember, you can exchange foreground and background color, or let's say black and white for painting. So removing color means enhancing the selection. And if you overdo it, you can press X again and make the selection a little bit smaller again. And now you can move on doing this endlessly. This is one of the use cases where you might want to use a Wacom tablet and a stylus. Okay, and so on and so on. And now when you press Q, you see the selection ants are following. So I won't proceed with this because it takes too long and this is not the point of this tutorial. But as you can see, this is the way to go for improving your. One last thing, you can save selections actually. Imagine you already know that you will need this selection once more. You can save this, and the way to save it is via select, save selection. You can give it a name. Let's call this window. And now it's going to be saved. The question is, of course, where is it saved? When I release this selection by pressing Ctrl or Command D, the selection is gone. And now where is it? Open up the Channels palette, Window, Channels, and now you can see a very strange kind of panel. The Channels palette basically shows you how much of red, green and blue is in your image. I don't want to explain it in this video because it's a very theoretical issue. The bottom line is don't touch these, because whenever you do something in these channels, you will change the image forever. The funny thing is that Photoshop uses this very sensitive and kind of important panel to also store selections. As you can see, when I just switch all the channels off, you see a black and white image, which is representing your selection. You can just close this channel palette again, and if by any means you need this selection again, you just use the select load selection command, and there you can look for this name that you assigned to this selection, which is window, and if you press OK, you see your ants again. So again, save selection and load selection. The fact that this selection is stored in the channels palette is actually something that you don't have to care about. If by any means you want to see how your selections look and how many you already saved, you can of course go to the channels palette again. Also, to just load it, which is a quick way of doing it, press Command or Control and click on this small miniature, and then you see your selection ants again. There's a lot more to say about selections, and there are use cases where you have to apply very complex techniques to select things. But this will serve as a starter. You know the basic selection tools, how to manage selections, how to add selections, how to edit selections in mask mode, and how to save and load selections.